Have you ever wanted to be a host on an ACA show or be the one calling the shots behind the scenes? Are you in Austin, Texas, or at least Austin adjacent? Well, on Saturday, February 25th, make your way down to the Free Thought Library because we'll be holding open auditions for show hosts and orientations for prospective crew members. For those wanting to be hosts, you'll be able to sit in the studio where our shows are broadcast and we'll put you through your paces to see if you can be one of the new personalities of the ACA. For future crew members, you'll get hands-on experience using the equipment used for broadcast and will help us record the host auditions. If you've ever dreamed of being part of the ACA productions, then this is your chance to show us what you've got. This event is free. For more information and registration, visit tiny.cc/ACA auditions.
Greetings, salutations, and etc., etc., etc. And welcome back to another episode of The Nonprofits, the show where we discuss news and topics of the day from a skeptical, humanist perspective. You like how way I say humanist, with the Daniel Sitchin rule, that's what you call diction. And my name with the dictionianness is Cynthia. And today I'm joined by two rich Brits and one Beat the Cult chick. So let's go ahead and go through my rich Brit number one. Did I say that right? Rich Brit number one, which would be Dr. Richard Firth. Hello, how are you, sir? How are you doing?
I am excellent. Glad to be here as always. Back 2 weeks in a row. It feels kind of weird. I feel like I'm always up at night on a Thursday now. It's kind of strange.
It's Thursday somewhere at all times.
Thursday here.
It's Thursday there. It's Wednesday here.
It's Sunday.
Airing on a Sunday. Right now. And I already prefaced this show, like I was telling everybody in the background, that this is going to be a very silly show. So all you audience members, just hold tight because it's going to be like that. And never mind. Richard Gilliver, how you doing?
Cynthia McDonald, hello.
Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you. Always good to see you, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Very excited to be here, etc., etc.,
etc., etc., etc. Exactly. And our guest host today is second time on the ACA, first time actually on Nonprofits. Hello, Nikki Beat the Cult. How are you?
Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Richard, to the second power. You guys doing okay tonight?
Yes, we do math here. Well, maybe everybody else, not necessarily. Nikki, before we go into it, can you tell a little bit about yourself to the people now that's watching?
Yeah, so I've been in the atheist community for almost a decade now. Started off as Skeptic Nikki quite some time ago, and have always had the kind of long-standing dream of being on the ACA. So this is kind of like a dream come true for me. I was on Truth Wanted previously with Dan, and I greatly enjoyed it. And I will be going on Talk Heathen next month, and I'm climbing the ranks to the trying to get on the atheist experience.
I know,
but yes, I know you already know my. So I just love this channel. I love what you guys do. I've been watching this for quite some time, going back to the old school gangsters, and I'm just so grateful to be here and still be able to have a voice as a Black woman in the atheist community.
Lovely. We love platforming Black women atheists in the community. At least I know I do. So I'm so glad. So I'm glad that you are here, Nikki, and we are privy to you being here. We are blessed and highly favored.
Highly favored. Won't he do it?
Yeah, won't he do it?
Won't he do it?
No, he won't. So moving on. This show is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting atheism, skeptical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And today, good people, we're going to be talking about a few things. The first thing that we're going to be talking about is Christians on the right getting big mad over Satanic Grannies. They big mad, yo. They big mad. Second segment, we're going to be talking about the Democrats actually condemning Christian nationalism, step in the right direction, if I would say so. Third segment, Church of England, I would believe is getting a little woke, y'all. They're getting a little woke because they're changing God's pronouns to they them. Yes. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Funny to me.
And in the last y'all, come on. Okay, I know I preface the show for me, so go quick. And the last thing that we're going to be talking about today is Black Americans actually seeking spiritualism outside of the church. And as with all of our shows, links to today's topics and the news we discuss are available in the description below. And a reminder that if you want to come into the show prepared, you can check out the Nonprofit's Facebook fan page every Friday night for a list of the articles ahead of time. So let's go ahead and get into it. And I believe this is Richard to the Second Power, Dr. One, is going to be leading us in with segment number one. Sir, take it away.
I am. Right, well, there's a kind of pop star I don't really like very much. It's the squeaky clean, tuxedo wearing, crooning, always nice, always lovely pop star. Can't stand them. But what I can stand is when one of those pop stars turns to the dark side. They say, I'm going to destroy my image. I'm going to dress up as a devil. I'm going to do raunchy songs. I'm going to be all holy and sexy and lovely. And I'm going to really annoy religious people, which is exactly what Sam Smith, bless him, has done. Apparently, his performance at the Grammys is satanic. Of course, Sam Smith knows that the devil isn't real and neither are demons, but apparently some people who were watching it, who surprisingly aren't under the age of 6, don't know this. And they think that he was calling some kind of demon during his raunchy show. All I saw was a man who was far too clean, or who is far too clean and too lovely, embracing rock and roll properly. But that's not what others see. It's kind of frustrating. It's the usual people, Charlie Kirk and all that, not surprising, who say this. And also, by the way, Morrissey, the English dreary misery merchant, also thinks it's awful that he did this satanic thing. So it's Brits as well, isn't it strange? So anyway, Rich the other, do you like that Sam Smith has finally jumped the dark side and annoyed lots of Christians?
I think it's always exciting when people annoy lots of Christians. I remember the first Satanic Panic and when kind of Motley Crue and Slayer and all those guys were out, and you had the Parents Against whatever it was and all that jazz that was going on back then. And they were the devil horns were representing 3/6 of Satan and all that kind of stuff. And interestingly enough, the devil horns have made an appearance in this story as well, because Sam Smith did have a top hat with the horns on it. And he danced with a cane. Apparently that is a serious offense. When having devil horns on a top hat, is that just pushes it over the edge. It really pushes it over the edge, and you're really in the midst of a satanic ritual when you see that top hat come out. Nikki, what do you think?
So personally, I always find things like this extremely entertaining. I was raised in an extremely conservative middle of the Appalachian Valley, Tennessee type area, Tennessee, where everything that had anything to do with Satan was automatically viewed as satanic. So this is hilarious to me. I absolutely enjoyed seeing the performance. I loved that it spurred so much animosity and disdain amongst Christians, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, you know what? I decided to go ahead and watch the Grammy performance, even though I didn't really watch the Grammys in of itself because I just don't care. But since there was so much, talk about Sam Smith and Kim Petras performance, and the thing about it is that they actually had raunchier performances of the same song Unholy on other shows. Matter of fact, I think that the one that they did at the I believe it's called the Royal Albert Hall, if I'm not mistaken, was pretty darsh raunchy with with black leather and
black leather.
And
it's always the black leather that's raunchy.
Right. And a little grease lightning going on and a little tongue kissing amongst some queer folk and all that other great diggy. It got a little spicy there for a minute. I was like, whoa, what's out there now? And and it's kind of crazy, like how like you have like a lot of people like on the right, like specifically like Christian right, like not only here in America but also like in Britain, as the Richards pointed out, them actually just getting their panties all in a bunch just because like somebody came on specifically the Grammys with some red pleather, devil horns on a top hat, and just decided just to have perform a song. I mean, like,
it's not even real leather; it's pleather.
Right. That part.
But for the sanitized Satanist,
I was gonna say sanitized, and it's a little more malleable. You can move a little bit more
right.
loosely and pleather.
Put a little water on it, stretch it out just a little bit, just so that he can go ahead and do his rolling move. Say that he was doing.
Right.
Yeah, it was great. And like, and it's no stranger that like Kim Petras is a transgender woman. Sam Smith is a homosexual gay man. That, and they both embrace their identities fully and decide to go ahead and definitely imbue it in their performances in their song. And boy, I tell you, folk was losing their damn mind. Oh my goodness. Like, did any of you all get a chance to see what some of the other Christian right-wing people were saying specifically?
It was hilarious. They had the Turning Point founder, USA, and conservative influencer Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
This made me laugh because it went on a multi-part tweet storm.
Yes,
that's hilarious. Of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene, our friend, had something to say about it as well, as she always does. She was blaming Pfizer because they sponsored the performance. Obviously insinuating there was some kind of connection between the medicine and the devil.
I was going to
as she knew. When we're talking about Turning Point USA, I'm not sure if it was that, but somebody said, that was it. Liz Wheeler said, she said, "Don't fight the culture wars." Meanwhile, demons are teaching your kids to worship Satan. I could throw up. She said, I mean, it got to her that much that she felt physically sick over it. I mean, it's a performance. Come on, lighten up.
I know.
Rich, come on, you're a performer.
Yeah, well,
give it to us.
It was hardly Rob Zombie, was it? I mean, it was, and maybe we should take him all to see. Have you ever heard the band Gwar, who basically rip things apart and stab each other on stage? Best gig I've ever been to. Anyway, I came out covered in gunk. It was incredible. But and like I say, I mentioned Morrissey, because they used to share a record company, Sam Smith and Morrissey. He said Capitol Records proudly promotes Sam Smith's Satanism, yet they consider the honest truth of my factual album to be their biggest threat. They basically wouldn't release one of his albums because it was, as we say in the record industry, crap. So so bad, Miley Cyrus had all her backing vocals removed from it. Apparently, so she said, "No, I don't want to associate with that."
Removed. That's really
bad.
If
She did backing vocals, and she was like, "No, I don't want anything to do with him or his music." No. But that's Satanism, apparently. It's not just artistic choices. But yeah, I love it. I mean, I don't like that these people have power. And one thing we haven't said. Sam Smith, I believe, by the way, he has he considers himself to be non-binary. I think he's a they, them. They are them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so I believe.
Them.
But as I say, they've changed into this rock and roll thing from the tuxedo guy who did what I consider to be one of the worst Bond themes to this, and I think it's fantastic. But that is of course the elephant in the room. It's not the demons; it's the non-binary transsexual demons that they really, 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 really upset about. Because of course, if Rob Zombie did turn up, he's a cis male. They'd be fine with it as he ripped off a doll's head. So you know.
Yeah, I had a friend who was in a band in the the band is still going, but they were kind of quite big in the late 80s, and they were telling me a story about they were on stage with the long hair and singing all these rock and roll songs about sex and whatnot, and there was a kind of police officer there, and he walked up to them and he said, "I don't like you. You look like fags with your long hair, but at least you're not commies." That was just that's the kind of vibe I get from this. So we're just like going on what Rich was saying. It's like it's the better of two evils. There might be other Satanists out there, but at least they're not non-binary and transsexual. Like, come on, get a grip, man.
I always feel like one of the issues that kind of exacerbates these arguments from the right side is the fact that these entertainment pieces are put out by people of the LGBTQ community, like Lil Nas X when he did the Montero video. I think it was a couple years ago when he was like giving Satan a lap dance, and it just kind of made them a little bit more upset about the whole issue. And I feel like this kind of follows along those lines with him being LGBTQ and her being, of course, trans. I feel like it just adds something to it that makes it a little more spicy for the right wing.
Listen, anytime that you can get Satan a hard on and give him a lap dance, I think is good content to me. I mean, personally,
that's so funny.
You know, hold on. I'm sorry. This is the nonprofits. This is not secular sexuality. Sorry. Started getting images in my head, yo. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. But, you know, I think, and I agree, I think this is more so a reaction towards the artist being non-binary and trans.
Yeah.
In part of the LGBTQIA plus community, more so than the Satan thing. I mean, like, you know, for the simple fact of the matter is that we, of course, known plenty of bands that had, like, you know, dark overtones when it comes to their performances, when it comes to how they dress. You know, being a person born in the late 70s and lived through the 80s, you know, remember the hair bands and how and heavy metal and how, like, you know, people are like, oh my God, they're going to turn your children and theists, like, you know, going to the whole thing about playing records backwards in order for you to say, see, that's Satan talking, you know, and I feel like personally, like when you're Marjorie Taylor Greene's and even Ted Cruz said this is just evil, you know, I'm like evil, yo, like it was evil for you to like roll out to Mexico when your whole state was in an energy crisis, sir.
They rolled out to New Mexico.
Yeah, rolled out to Mexico. Yeah, like
Mexico.
Yeah, he went to Mexico during when Texas was having an energy crisis and their grid, like, you know, froze over because they were having
was
like that.
An American trying to get into Mexico during a crisis instead of vice versa.
Yes. The irony of it all. Okay. Then this is Ted Cruz that did that, and he had the nerve, the audacity, the mitigated gall to say, hey, this is evil. I'm like, man, if you don't shut you know what up. I can say the word right because we in more than 5 minutes in, right? Yeah. Shut the whole fuck up, sir. You know, I'm always the first one to drop the F-bomb on, and I'm very proud of that, by the way. But yeah, I just really this is this manufactured outrage. And this is something that we have seen on plenty of times, specifically from the Christian right, when it comes to any person that's, you know, like making art and presenting it on a stage. I personally, I'm a little tired of the song because it's constantly played, but in actuality, the song is kind of dope. And I think that what kind of like annoyed me the most is like everybody has like a dance routine and TikToks and shorts on YouTube, and let me show you my combination to this song, and hey, there, all that other great stuff, and I'm like, okay, great, you're a great dancer, no. But but other than that, again, manufacturer outrage, and the people in them just need to go ahead and get somewhere and set entire down. Like, especially like when I saw legislators deciding to chime in on what Sam Smith and Kim Petras was doing on the Grammys. I'm like, don't you have some legislation and a country to run? How is this even relevant to your job?
No, that's not what my tax dollars are for at all.
Oh, okay. None of us, and I'm pretty sure that the rich Brits can actually, say that they can understand, especially like if they had like members of parliament actually chime in on something Sam Smith did. But I'm like, but regardless of that, let's go ahead and get some final thoughts before we move on rather. So I'm gonna go from my far left to Rich Bridge 1, Rich Bridge.
I've got one for sale.
1, then 2, then a chick that beats the cult. Go ahead, Dr. Rich.
Yeah, I was going to say this has happened before. This has. I by the way, I could lecture forever on the way that technology affects songs. That song is so short as well because it was designed for TikTok. But anyway, the Dee Snider. We all know Dee Snider, Twisted Sister. If anybody hasn't, go on YouTube. You may have heard of it. And you might find Dee Snider speaking to Congress about censoring music. And he tears them apart. It's a beautiful thing to see. So seek that out. That's the last time they tried this. They all go, "Oh, but look at that band. They're dressing like ladies." We've heard that before, haven't we? We've heard that again, haven't we? Funny that. But anyway, so he tears them apart. So go there. Yeah, it's all happening again, and it's not going to go anywhere, I don't think. It's just, I'm hoping. Who knows at the moment? You've got people in your government who want it to go somewhere, but I don't think it will. All I'm going to do is bask in the glory that Sam Snider has finally become rocker. Sam Snider?
Sam Smith.
Hey, there's an image. Sam Smith has finally become rock and roll. G. Smith has finally become rock and roll.
If the Snyder and Sam Smith had a baby, there you go.
They need to do a duet now. That has to happen. That would be actually the perfect thing. So once they do their duet, that's going to happen. That's brilliant. And that it's upset all these people again, because I just like to see them act like the children that they seem to be over these things. It's just a bit of fun. It's just fun. Can't have that though, can we?
Can't have fun.
No.
I think
I can't have fun.
for me, the fact that the host Trevor Noah made a joke, saying it wasn't the actual devil. I think this is the saddest thing about the whole affair for me. Because you know that he didn't say that just as a joke. No. It was damage limitation. Because so many right-wing Christians will, like, literally think that it is something to do with the devil. And that's you shouldn't have to make a joke as damage limitation because there's so many fucknuts in your country that are actually going to believe this. You know what I mean? I have nothing else to say on the matter, Nikki.
Well, as I said earlier, I just find it absolutely hilarious. It always seems that no matter what anyone in the entertainment industry does, the right app, always freaks out about it. It's the satanic panic nonsense has been going on for decades. If it's not Little Nas, it's Cardi B and WAP. It's always something that makes people think that the devil is out to get their children in some hypersexualized way. But like you said, Richard, Dr. Richard, it is just a song. It's just a bit of entertainment. It's just a bit of fun. So they are overreacting, but that's what they do. So.
Jeez, tell me about it. I did want to point out one thing specifically from the Church of Satan, and David Harris actually chimed in, and he said the song was all right.
That is funny.
He's like, man.
Like,
And on that note, thank you to our veteran and new viewers for getting us over 11,000 subscribers. Guys, we are so close to 12,000. We can taste it. So please, if you are watching us now and you haven't subscribed yet, get on that. And once you subscribe, like the video and ring that bell so that you always know when a new Nonprofits episode premieres every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Time. Like every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Time. But you already knew that since I just said that it's every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Time. Then share the link to our channel with your friends,
Do that.
with your family members, with
Some
your
of them.
co-workers, with the neighbor guy you really like, and the neighbor guy you don't like, and everyone. And let's get the word out so that we can help start helping those fundraisers. And we do actually do fundraisers every ACA show. There is a way for you to actually give to the ACA on our particular podcast. So make sure that you get on that as well. If you have to give, please yabba dabba do that. And are you aware that the atheist community of Austin has another YouTube channel? Well, you should be. So check out the Atheist Experience Network, a channel where you can find all ACA shows in the podcast form, and subscribe at tiny.cc/AEN podcast to listen to episodes of the Nonprofits, the flagship show of the ACA, the Atheist Experience, Secular Sexuality, Truth Wanted, and all our other ACA shows like Talk Heathen, which the other Richard G happens to be on. Yeah, from time to time, he says things. So subscribe to all that stuff.
I believe I'm on when Nikki's on. I think I'm.
That's gonna be dope.
Me and Nikki are going together on there, so that's
That
going to be one to
is
look forward
dope.
to.
That is going to be awesome.
That's going to be dope. So get on actually subscribing to our YouTube channel, subscribe to all of our podcasts that we have on all different platforms, and also subscribe to the individual YouTube platforms that actually show our content. And also know that if you are doing the YouTube channel that happens to be all of our podcast forms, we do have archive shows on there as well that we may not necessarily produce now, but also full of delicious content. Yeah. You like how I roll on my shoulders? Of course you do. All right, so let's go ahead and go into segment 2, which is I got 2 musicians on there. They should give me like a beatbox or something, but that's okay. Step in the right direction. Step in the right direction. Yeah, we're stepping in the right direction. Yeah. And this one is talking about the Democrats actually passing a resolution condemning white religious nationalism. And this is actually from the Religious News Service that was actually posted on February 8th, 2023 by Jack Jenkins. And this particular story is basically about that. It talks about how the Democrats actually came up with a resolution in order for them to condemn white Christian nationalism and how it can be very much so damaging to the body politic. And we even seen how white Christian nationalism has not only influenced thought patterns of the general contingency, the contingency of the population of the United States, but we also have seen this particular thought patterns that have invaded our government from the federal to the state level, to the municipalities, and even the school board room on down. This particular sentiment is the one that actually wants to ban books. They want to ban CRT. They want to ban anything and everything that actually teaches people anything that's proper. Okay. So we just want to make sure that like we can actually highlight this and talk about like, you know, some of the proper, this particular resolution being a proper thing, but also talking about specifically how Christian nationalism is something that is improper and is actually destroying our body politic, in my opinion. And if I'm going to pass this on to Richard Gilliver. If you can chime in for me, my friend, being across the pond, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely. Look, this the thing about this, and I like this, is that this has got faith leaders behind it as well. This isn't just kind of a secular thing. There's faith leaders from across the religious spectrum of condemned religious nationalism, and I think that's brilliant. And I think it's something we should highlight, that the opponents to this are a particular category of Christian. And I'm using Christian specifically because they will object not just to this, but to Muslims and to Jewish people, and to Buddhists are probably all right because they don't really exist according to Christians. But this is something that there's a particular kind of person who is against this, and of course, one of those people is our friend who is reappearing again. From the first article, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I feel like I should get like some kind of commission every time I mention her name. She identifies as a Christian nationalist, and this isn't a religion thing. This is a political thing, and this, and it shouldn't be a political party thing either. Everybody should be condemning this. White Christian nationalism is essentially racism dressed up.
Yep.
That's what it is. Let's not beat around the bush. And the fact that there's a certain section of Americans who think, American Christians in particular, who think this is something that you should be proud of, and that they're hard done by. As I was reading something the other day, I don't remember who it was, but I think it was Tucker Carlson, who kind of, you know what's coming when that name's mentioned. It said something along the lines of, not about this particular story, but it was something along the same lines that because there was a minority Catholic cult that had been linked to racism and was like being gone after by the authorities. He decided to use that to just say Christianity was oppressed in total. That was it. And this was a verified cult who had verified links to like criminal organizations. But he turned that round saying it was a persecution of Christians altogether. This is the kind of mindset that is attracted to this idea. And it's like I said, it's racism, plain and simple.
Yes, to follow along with what Richard said, I do like this. I think that it's great that there's been some attention kind of being drawn to this. I feel that given the election of Trump in 2016, that the really extreme Christian right has been emboldened and behaving as obnoxiously as possible, following up with the January 6th riots. I just feel like in order to do something that egregious, you have to have some fucked up mentality that even gives you the misperception that you can't even do that. And they are the ones that do it. And it's not just the January 6th. It's running through the hallways of Target, ripping masks off of did you see that woman who was ripping masks off the shelves, acting a damn fool? And all because it's all about like political misrepresentation, and it carries over into the Christian right. And those are typically the individuals who are representing these fucked up ideals. And I'm really glad that multiple faiths have come together and basically agree that this type of white nationalist Christianity is not welcome in the United States. It is extremely debilitating, not just to people of other races, but really to the country as a whole. So it is rooted in racism. But I am very glad that this has been pushed out. It does seem like even people are going against the traditional megachurch pastors like Kenneth Copeland and Paula, what's her name? Paula White.
Paula White, yeah.
Who was Trump's spiritual spiritual advisor, as if Trump has any level of spirituality that's valid. With him standing up in front of that, what was he standing up with the Bible? He was just standing there like hardcore, just with holding the Bible. Like
Second Corinthians. He mispronounced 2 Corinthians. That's what he said.
It's a hot mess. It's just a complete hot mess. So between them and Pat Robertson, CBN, and then just bringing all of this nonsense to the political arena as well. Also with the Roe v. Wade being overturned, it just is. I mean, it's really representative of a larger issue. I'm so glad that they came together and determined to push this out. It's good stuff to me. So I'm happy.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Dr. Richie.
Well, it's kind of sad that it has to be pushed out, that it has to say, you know what, America's kind of founded on not Christian nationalism, so
what?
You know, maybe
That's
we
not
could
true. It was
not
founded on Christian
do
values.
that. I know. Maybe we could not do that. It's the whole, and it is like you say, it's an example of something more pervasive, more dangerous that has been going on in American politics for quite a while. This sort of move to bring God into government that is just not right. And people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I have this deep, terrifying fear that she's going to be president one day.
I was going to say, you guys are going to summon her. You said her name 3 times. She's going to just
right. She's going
to appear behind me with a hook on her hand.
Like,
right. And all of a sudden start singing Shake, 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 Sonora.
Just start worrying when we buy her a top hat with horns on. That's all you've got.
Oh, dear. It'd have to be a white one to go with that furry thing she was wearing.
Right,
Anyway,
with the purple.
And it's this whole.
Sorry about it.
Let me come back on this show. I'm laughing so hard.
But it's like, I'm going to plow on. So it's like there's this group that seems to want to, as part of this, politicize everything. Masks were a thing to stop you spreading an illness to other people. That's all they were. And yet they go around smashing masks up and tearing, saying, it's freedom, I don't want to wear a mask. And then they find someone who does want to wear a mask and say, take that mask off. You're like, oh, yeah, well, what? Hey, I want to freedom stuff. Anyway, and they just do this kind of stuff. And it's all part of this seemingly same group of extraordinarily weird, gullible people who have far too much power. And I'm glad that there's been a group got together with some religious leaders and said, can we not do that, please? My worry is it's just a thing and they'll be there anyway. You've still got Marjorie Taylor Greene standing up and heckling a man talking about his dead son. And you've still got that whole group of twits with their hands on the levers of power. All these Christians with their hands on the levers of power going, we're being persecuted. No, it's like the guy driving the truck whinging because he crashed it and blaming everybody else. It's ridiculous. And let's hope this is a start of something good. Personally, I'm a massive pessimist about it, but let's hope it's all moving in the right direction.
Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and that other white guy, and some other white guys. And
that's all the Christian right. You just
not these white guys. Not these ones.
Not those two.
No.
Y'all have an accent. We can
right. That don't have an accent.
According to Santos, he's not white. Anyway.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and the ones, them ones too. They all remind me of you guys. Like, I have to go here. I have to go there. They remind me of the Monty Python sketch with the Olympics with the twits. Who can't start a car, and when they do start a car, they go backwards. Yeah. They don't know how to step over, like, a little line or something. And they all have really, really bad faces, especially like when Marjorie Taylor Greene decides to go and heckle Biden when he was talking about Republicans wanting to cut Medicare and Social Security, which they do. They do. This is something that has been, this is not like, news. and this is something that they've been wanting to do for quite some time. So, and even though like I'm not like a huge like Biden fan, but I mean we got to call a spade, right? This is something that you have specifically from the right, and the thing about it is, Richard, when you were talking about, well, Dr. Rich, when you were talking about like the pessimism going, and I kind of am there with you, only because this is just a resolution. This is not legislation, right?
Right.
This is basically just something to introduce, saying that naughty Christian right, nationalist folk, stop doing what you're doing, but we have no real power to make you stop doing what you're doing. It's just basically, Democrats and also faith leaders and other constituents who happen to come together to say that they condemn these actions, right? I'm glad that they're doing it. It needs to be something that people are in solidarity with, in order to say that this is something that they ought to do. And I am of the mind that this is the premier threat to the American democracy. Christian nationalism. I really believe this, and I know that like just like being a political activist myself, and talking with legislatures, and talking, and even like helping candidates run for offices in my local area. I've noticed this whole thing specifically with Republicans, that you have very few, when you're talking about specific issues dealing with equity, dealing with inclusion, dealing with like social justice, economic justice, and things that we can prove with data, that they have a tendency just to like turn a blind eye and say that's not happening. Even with Marjorie Taylor Greene, when she was grilling this one dude, saying that I forgot specifically what his name, but she was grilling him about critical race theory being funded through to schools, and said that $1.5 billion was given to one Illinois school to teach critical race theory, which teaches white children to hate themselves and elevates Black children. This is specifically what she said out of her mouth. Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't necessarily have an issue with talking with legislators about policy, but at the same time, if you have a legislator that leads with that, I'm going to suggest that more than likely they ain't gonna hear a goddamn thing I'm saying. Right. So this is, and so like when you have people who have these particular sentiments, because like Christian nationalism, as I said, is all about banning books that happen to be, woke related or LGBTQIA leaning. It's all about, changing curriculum. So if it seems like it's too CRT-ish, like math, Governor DeSantis, we don't want to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, I mean, like these people are ridiculous.
We are in trouble. In trouble. If these are our leaders, we're in trouble.
Joe, Richard, Dr. Rich, help me out, because I'm at a loss for words right now.
I don't know. I don't know how many crayons you need to explain to these people that advanced jurisprudence is not being taught to school children. I don't know how you do this. CRT is not for kids, right? It's complicated. You do it at university.
It's really not. Yeah.
So, and it's just a boogeyman, isn't it? That's what it is. And it is a man.
It's a straw man. It's a straw man.
A straw boogeyman. Ooh.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's an image.
That is.
And now I'm seeing Marjorie Taylor Greene again, but that's not fair. But anyway,
it's like Candyman just going to show up, right? No,
and that's what we'll see behind us. Straw boogeyman in the shape of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
You're just going to disappear. Your camera's going to go out. Or you're like, where'd he go?
But it is down to racism.
She got her.
Getting rid of critical race theory, that's racism, or using it as a boogeyman to attack the left. That's racism. That's part of this white Christian nationalism, and the other things. Homophobia is thrown in there. Any book that says there are different people in the world seems to be a bad thing, and it's no good. As I say, I hope this is, if nothing else, it's the way that the certain people in perhaps the centre right as well can say, we don't want any of that, so don't vote for them. But we'll see.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think I think we need to well, first of all, just to expand on what Rich said a little bit, then I'll make this really quick because I know we're coming to the end of the segment, but about this isn't just one group of people who's been affected. The actual resolution says that white nationalism, religious nationalism, has been used in the cover to inflame hate by providing cover for racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, and Islamophobia. So they're really going all out here, you know? I mean, this isn't just one thing.
All the phobias.
All the phobias. Let's get all the phobias out.
Exactly.
And you know, for fear of bringing the woman's name into it again, I just cannot stop laughing now because all I can think about is Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson and their ilk taking part in the upper class Twit of the Year competition going, that's it, I've got nothing else.
Driving their cars backwards into each other. No, listen, before we go on, I just have to say this. Now the image for me is Marjorie Taylor Greene in her fur coat, looking like fur coat, like her fur collar coat that she had on at the State of the Union dress,
right?
With and actually not her specifically, but you know, an actual like corn. What is those people like the scarecrow looking? Scarecrow. Yeah, because like she's straw man's all the time, and you know talking about that's the way. Yeah, you know CRT is wrong. Anyway, on that note, guys, let's go ahead and just take a break from our conversation. And if you didn't tune into the other if you did not tune in to the other ACA shows,
what are words?
Last week, here's what you missed.
The Fet Lives, where you found me, just doing my thing in the Pet Palace.
I like the idea that the audience thinks that I just like sort of troll Fet Life, just trying to find somebody to come and talk to me about something sexy and funny and weird.
He knows things through a feeling, and you know through the things from a feeling. And it seems like with that very same method, we can arrive at almost polar opposite beliefs. Do you think that way of knowing your belief is a reliable way to know that belief?
If you read, there are passages and letters written by Queen Victoria herself where she, let's just say, gleefully comments upon the manhood of her husband Albert. That's why there's a ring named after him. It's how he used to control the beast.
Are you inside my brain?
I can tell you what Satan your mind into believing.
Hold on. I find it kind of offensive to use inflammatory language like that to describe somebody that does not believe in your God.
Whether it's in the Bible or not, for treating a human being as a means and not an end in themselves. And just because some Bronze Age semi-savages may have justified it, I just don't think that counts.
If you can arrange to be in the Austin area Sunday, February 26th, consider joining us in the studio audience at the ACA Free Thought Library for a live broadcast of Secular Sexuality, Truth Wanted, Talk Heathen, and the Atheist Experience. Doors open at noon on Sunday, and parking is where you can find a legal spot after the lot is full. If you can't make it there this month, we will continue to broadcast live from the library the last week of each month. So keep watching the show and our website, atheist-community.org, for news and information as we expand our in-studio offerings. And I do apologize. I'm sorry. Talk Heathen and Atheist Experience are the ones that you're going to be watching on Sundays when you come to the Free Thought Library when the doors are opening at 12 p.m. Central Time. There you go. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. I'm just a I'm just doing my conducting thing, y'all. I'm just running. I'm driving the runaway train, and everybody knows that when I drive the runaway train, it literally runs away.
It runs away.
It really does.
Right off the damn rails. Just
Really, really like, oh shit, Cynthia is conducting. God damn it, everybody get under something. It's going to blow. With that being said, segment 3. I believe this is Richard Gilliver. Can you go ahead and lead us in?
I certainly can. The next article comes from The Guardian, that very well-established British newspaper, and was published on the 7th of February by PA Media. This article tells us that our good old friends, the Church of England, are considering whether to stop referring to God as he, after priests have asked to use gender-neutral terms instead, and aims to launch a new commission on the matter in the spring, and that any potential alterations would have to be approved by Synod, the Church's decision-making body. As you can imagine, I am going to have a lot to say on this, so I'm going to throw it open out to the panel members to see what they think before I get into it. Dr. Richard, take us away.
Yes, there's the other Brit on the panel. It's a very odd thing because at the same time that apparently they're considering that God is a they or a them, at the same time they have been saying that they are not going to bless same-sex marriages or other same-sex marriages in church. So it's kind of do one thing perhaps that's good and do one thing that really isn't. If anyone, I don't know if anyone outside the UK has heard of Sandy Toksvig. She took over from Stephen Fry on the show QI. That's where you best know her from. But she is a lesbian lady, and she is actually had dinner with the bishop, the Archbishop of Canterbury, to hold him on this. And he said, "Oh, it's because there are different churches and the Anglican churches all around the world, and we can't interfere in their politics. And yet God can become they, them." So, yeah, this is typical Church of England trying to make everybody happy all at once, all at the same time. And as usual, they're making a right bollock of it. So I've got, the Church of England have always been Catholicism light, basically. And this is one of those examples of where they get so stuck in their own rules and quagmires and the international nature of it all that they can't, one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing. And it's a mess. And it sounds good, but I don't know. Also, it came from The Guardian. So The Guardian's a great newspaper, but I usually wheel in a truck of salt and pour it over an article before I start reading. So let's see if it actually happens, you know. That's all I have to say for now. I'm gonna leave it there because I could rant for a week about the Church of England, being as I was brought up in it, and it was horrible. Although there was some many lovely cakes made by the attendees there and lots of tea to be had. Other than that, it's not.
I'm glad we're not going off topic at all on this episode.
No. I'm still talking about the Church of England.
Wait. The whole time I'm thinking TF4. TSM4, right?
But this is the point. The point I'm making is they are that kind of a church. This kind of this light version of Catholicism. Everyone's trying to be nice to everybody all the time. So they'll do something like this. They'll announce, yes, we're going to make God gender neutral, and then say, oh, but no, gay people can't get married in our church, and we won't bless you either. And so they're hypocritical and they have double standards, and it's not necessarily malice like with some churches. It's just stupidity or just an inability to be cohesive. That's just my take on them, having once been one.
Nikki, non-Britain.
Nikki,
I was going to say, my perspective,
on the outside looking in, that was not raised in at the Church of England. I'm so sorry. Exactly. I want to give preface. Nikki, non-Brit, was not raised in the Church of England. Looking at this, what do you think?
Okay, so first, I know that this would not more than likely happen in the United States. I feel that, as we have mentioned her name probably about 20 times now, Marjorie Taylor Greene would absolutely
don't say her name no more, yo.
It was not. I said her name like twice. Y'all have said her name like 10 times each. I've said her name like twice, but no. So from Richard's perspective, I understand the personal relationship to this area of the church. It gets very personal for me as well, kind of, as we'll probably discuss a little later. I will say, being in America, I feel like there's a lot of like virtue signaling regarding the usage of pronouns, and it's not necessarily genuine. And I think I've identified with Richard kind of along those lines, that it seems kind of like it's a little more virtue signaling, not like there's an actual genuine desire to change, given that they're still not going to let gays and LGBTQ, of which I am a member of the community, get married in the church. My brother and I actually had this conversation this past week. He is gay and he wants to get married in the church, but just like the Church of England here in America, that's very difficult. Even though he is a practicing Christian and is a lot more quote unquote Christian and kind and loving than others, they still won't let him get married in the church. So that is absolutely an issue. Of course, it's nice to see this posture. I guess it's a double-edged sword. We want to see the progression, but at the same time, there's a lot more progression to go. So I feel you, Richard. I get it. From the outside looking in, and being an American where everything is kind of so on level 10 all the time, it is kind of nice to see the progressiveness, but I understand that in a lot of cases, it really is just virtue signaling by a lot of people, and not a lot of changes will actually take place down the road.
The Church of England is so weird to me. It really is. It's so weird, okay, because like most of the people who's watching, and of course like the folks that's on the panel, like I don't know, Dr. Rich, if you knew, I grew up Anglican, okay, and Anglican. Anglican, like you got the emphasis on Anglican,
yeah,
with a whole bunch of angry Caribbeans, because my mom is an angry Caribbean. So, they brought the Church of England to Anglican, and then, found like an Episcopal church here, like where I grew up in Chicago, and that's how I grew up. So, but they're weird to me because, like, on one hand, you have open ministers that are gay. Okay. And they don't completely balk against that. There was an issue specifically, back in the day where like when openly gay ministers wanted to practice, but they had like some pushback, but eventually they let that barrier down. Matter of fact, in the church that I grew up in, one of the ministers that we did have was gay, openly gay. And the church and the and the pastor that's there now, or I'm sorry, we don't say pastors, they say priest or minister or vicar. The rich Brits know what that means. The vicar is openly gay now. Even though like it's not like a big thing that he like happens to have every time that he gets like on the pulpit and does his homily, he doesn't have a sign like, "Hey, I'm gay, listen to me." But everyone knows that he's a gay man. And but at the same time, even though you have people that's actually serving as ministers who are openly gay, you then have the Church of England saying that they don't want to necessarily have same-sex marriages in their churches. And the thing about it is that even though like the Anglican Church here in the United States may be, kind of under different edicts because we have different, bishops, but we still listen to the Bishop of Canterbury. We still look towards the Westminster as like the umbrella of the church in of itself, and you even still have Episcopal, Anglican ministers, priests, etc., vicars that will, make their pilgrimage to England in order for them to actually, receive virtue, whatever, when they're there. You know what I'm saying? So, like what they say as far as like a church overall matters. But at the same time, you have this particular whole thing about like, okay, well, yes, we're cool with, gay people serving as ministers. But we're not cool with gay people getting married in our churches, even though the gay people get married in the churches right here in the United States. I know that because I sang at one. 2 women friends of mine got married, and I sang at their wedding.
Will you sing at my wedding?
Sure. Anytime.
Yes.
Let me know.
I want you to sing WAP, please. Sing WAP at my wedding.
I ain't fooling with you, Nikki. But anyway. But then, like, like, you have this whole thing about like the introduction to of gender neutral language when you're referring to God. However, they're not going to stop utilizing the gender association of he in the Our Father.
Yeah.
Like that's not going away at all. So my whole thing is like, I understand that you're trying to be more inclusive to the community, especially when you have more and more people, if they are going to stay Christian, who happen to be part of the LGBTQIA plus community. They want to be able to, I guess, like market, propagandize to them too, so that they can come and and support, because more and more people are leaving church all over the world. And so they say, okay, well, let's, yeah, exactly. But
that just warms my soul.
I know, right? I know. Like, yeah, get out. Run. Don't pass.
Run fast.
Don't collect $200. Get the hell out. But right. I mean, but like at the same time, like this is what they're doing. Like they're trying to like say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put in gender neutral language. Call God they them. We're gonna get real woke on this, but not too woke. No. Right, so like
virtue signaling.
Exactly. There, exactly. And it's kind of like, okay, and even though like when we were talking about this earlier, like, are we calling this a step in the right direction because we want to? Because like God is now they them instead of he him, or
that is
or
so
not.
Funny to me. I'm sorry, I can just hear the right
no,
wing.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. What do you think about that?
I didn't. It's just the reference to God as a they them just absolutely cracks me up. And only because I know here in America they would just fucking lose their shit just hearing that. And I did not mean to interject, but just given the platform for a quick second, I just want to say just the concept of having a homosexual priest who is out. Listen. Growing up in Knoxville, Tennessee, down in the valley of the Appalachian Trail, where we love Jesus and Trump and football, that ain't happening. Okay, you ain't gonna be no priest if you gay. Like this is not happening. So that's where my face was. It's like, whoa, they actually let gay people practice. Like in our church, gay people had to hide. So that was where my facial expressions, because I'm just like, what? So I know that being allowed to get married is a whole barrier within itself, but I have to admit, being on the other side of the issue completely, just being able to practice openly as a homosexual priest or a member of the LGBTQ is a major step in the right direction. So eventually, I'm hoping that they'll let our community get married in the church. But trust me, if you were up in the valley of Tennessee, let me just say, as an idiomatic familiarity, count your blessings. Just count your blessings, okay? It could be worse. Just count your blessings. But I had to interject there for a second.
I think I just want to touch on something Cynthia said, which was about the gay people in the church before I go on to the gender neutral thing. There's an English historian. It was they call him Dermot McCulloch. Is a professor of the history of the church at Oxford, if I remember rightly, and is absolutely fantastic. And he became a deacon, and he refused the priesthood because he's gay and because of the church's stance on homosexuality. So there are loads of openly gay people in the Church of England, and like really, really well respected people as well. But like Dr. Rich, I could talk about this for a week easily on my own without anybody else. So but when we talk about the gender of God, in addition to the article itself, I just want to give a little bit of context. So, I'm not just interested in what people believe, but why they believe it. And there is a paper from the International Journal for the Psychology of Religion from 2001, which looked at not only if men and women held different views of God, but if the participants had different perceptions of a male God than a female God. And it found that although participants of both genders commonly expressed surprise when God was presented as female, none of them did when God was presented as a male. And furthermore, when presented as a female, the participants were more likely to require proof of the divinity of God. Now, one could argue, and I'm sure many apologists would, that this is because we have an innate understanding that God is male. But here's a twist in the tale. when we look at ancient Near Eastern religion, essentially, when we look at where Christian God's roots lie, we see that goddesses, as well as gods, were not only present, but an integral part of the religion of those people. In fact, in their 2002 paper, Women, Monotheism and Gender of God, Francis Clopper of the Department of the Old Testament, University of South Africa, argues that goddess worship wasn't a separate religion as the modern Christian might understand it. In simplest terms, God, the Christian God, came from this region of gods and goddesses, and is in fact, confusingly, an amalgamation of two gods, El, head of the Canaanite pantheons, and Yahweh, sometimes referred to as El's son. In short, and to conclude my little diversion that eventually became the Christian God, was a male figure, but the biblical stories don't always relate to this single figure. They relate to a pantheon of figures of many tribes, and have amalgamated into a single he. So this is and can be a complicated subject for those Christians willing to go there, because when they're talking about the God of the Bible, they're talking about the gods and goddesses of several sets of people that developed over a good period of time, and I'm talking hundreds of years. In fact, which has led to a long history of some theological expressions that God is neither male nor female. My rant is over. Richard.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
That's amazing.
Kalapovu, whose name I can never pronounce. She has shown that ancient worship of Yahweh was actually the ancient worship of Yahweh and Asher, his wife, and it was very, very intermingled. Where you find the old shrines, you'll find stones marking both of them. Never just one or the other. That's one point. The other point is a good way, I think, to explain to people who don't understand the Anglican Church is a conversation I once had with a priest, a female Anglican priest at the university. And I was setting up a skeptic club at the university, a skeptic group. And she came over and said, "What exactly do you do?" And I said to her, "Well, basically, we drink wine, stand around and talk about things that aren't probably true." And she said, "Same job as mine then." So, which I thought was a great answer. Same job as mine then. I was like, yes. And finally, surely God's pronouns are thy and thou. But anyway,
thou.
Just say. Don't it just be our parent who art in heaven, and the rest will work. Anyway.
Yeah, the church needs to be brave, I think, and talk outright about the history of where God come from.
Yeah.
Which it certainly has knowledge of. It doesn't deny the history, it just doesn't deny it. Or rather, its scholars don't deny the history of God like some evangelical groups do. Nope. They just don't pass that information on to their followers, and that's the problem.
I was just going to say, my mom would flip her lid. Like, just a quick side. I'm sorry, I know this is Dr. Richard's time. It just made me think. When I was a kid, I will never forget my mother saying, Oprah referred to God as a woman. God's not a woman. God is a man. And she would lose her shit just hearing what you're saying. So that's where I'm going when you mention these things. It's actually
that's exactly right. They just don't want the followers empowered. They're fully aware of it. They just don't want to empower the followers with that information. No. But in this case with the Church of England, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. We're going to have some vague, utterly useless, carefully worded statement that will try to appease everybody concerned. This is the Church of England. It's what they do, and it's what they're going to do over a pot of tea and some biscuits.
Yes. I love it. You guys are so you're on brand even.
I just like to let the audience know, if you don't know, biscuits means cookies.
I was gonna say
no, cookies means biscuits.
we serve donuts, our coffee.
I was just gonna say, when you say cakes, I was like, do you mean Dunkin' Donuts? Because up at the church, okay, after the service ends, we don't get cakes, baby. We get Dunkin' Donuts. And if God has been good that day and has shown us grace and blessings, we get Krispy Kreme donuts. But we don't get no cakes. We get donuts.
In the Church of England, those cakes will be carefully and lovingly baked by a lady who remembers being an octogenarian with fondness, and they were the nicest cakes you've ever had. That's the Church of England.
I was about to say,
you just described a Dunkin' Donuts cashier.
for a person that has spent time in my Anglican church growing up, and then also in like the Black evangelical church, on a good day you get fish and spaghetti.
Yeah, that's when somebody dies. That's when somebody dies.
I be like, or once a month after when they want to recruit people, like
we get fed.
We get fed like
this once every. That's true. Yeah. Well, I went to a white church. We didn't do all that.
No, they probably put like
Cynthia, take control of the show, woman.
I know, right? I was about to say real quick before we move on.
Childhood flashback.
Right. Well, what I was about to say, like before we move on, like if a white lady came to church, she probably put like raisins in the potato salad. So anyway, you can too become a member of the channel for as little as 99 cents per month. Click on the join button below the video, and this will give you access to special chat emojis. Also, we have it's not brand new, y'all, but we have a store. So visit tiny.cc/merchaca. That is tiny.cc/merchaca to get your favorite items like t-shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs. And also Richard Gilliver learned what a tote bag was. So you can check out our new items like beanies, phone cases, and tote bags, which again, Richard Gilliver learned what that was. And also, all the ACA shows actually feature a special limited edition item each month. So make sure that you check out our store for NP merch and merch from all our other ACA shows. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and go to our last segment, and that will be Nikki. Go ahead and bring us in.
Okay. So this article is actually about how African Americans are moving away from faith. You'll have to forgive me because I had it up here. Okay. More Black Americans turning from spirituality and African traditions over organized religion. This is excellent news. Yes, I am so excited to see this. If you want to find this story, you can find it at WXYZ Detroit, ABC 7. That is extremely specific, but that's where you can find it just to reference it. I actually tweeted this as I was extremely thrilled, and I supplemented it with the article from Christianity Today that states Black Americans see a bigger shift away from faith. This is amazing news. I work so hard, so fucking hard, just to beat the damn cult. And that's where my name comes from, Beat the Cult. And when I specifically think of beating the cult, and forgive me for being a little less empirical and a little bit more emotional here, is I grew up in the church, African-American, evangelical, charismatic, born-again Christian, if you have my mother tell it. And we were trained specifically to follow the word of God. My whole family is religious except for me. Even in this past week in the hospital, I was speaking to my mom about how she needs to talk to her doctors, be a little bit more intensive in her care, being more intentional. And she said, well, don't worry about that. I'm not going to think about it because Jesus has my back. And that is the African-American community. And I was on with Dan, Truth Wanted, previously. And I said that in Christianity is a genetic disease within the African-American community. I stand by that. It is a genetic disease. It was basically inculcated during slavery and persisted and thrived throughout the civil rights movement into the drug, the
war on drugs.
Thank you. The war on drugs with Reagan in the 80s. And now because we have less wealth before, less generational wealth, less land, we are even more desperate. So it finds, basically reinforcing that dependence on religion is difficult to watch. But with the younger generations, we are seeing some more flexibility, and I believe that's what that is referring to. So I am so happy to see this. I am thrilled. I want more African Americans to move away from Christianity. I am always, baby steps, of course. I know that there's going to be the argument, well, everyone needs to move away from, superstition completely. Come on now. Slaves ain't gonna move away that fast. So, and I know that's a little bit tough to say, but my generation, my genealogy, we were slaves. We were, we started in South Carolina. We were beaten and we were slaves. I mean, I know that's kind of incendiary to say, but when you have this going, and forgive my rambling, this is just a very passionate topic for me. You have this history, and a people is gradually moving away from dependence on a deity, especially a white deity, because what we did with slavery after that ended, we turned our white masters in for white Jesus, and we still do that. we still depend on white Jesus to rescue us. We still depend on white Jesus to give us peace and solace when things get hard. So just seeing that, even, we're moving away from that to more astrological, even traditionally African religions or Afrocentric beliefs. I'm happy to see that. So allow me to hand it off, but this is a passionate one for me, if you can't tell.
No, I can't tell at all, Nikki.
It's a passionate one. I want to see more progressivism in the black community, not the white. Y'all got it, but the black community. I want to see us demonstrating more education, more understanding of philosophy, the realization that white Jesus is not going to save you. And even maybe that rare picture of black Jesus that sit next to Martin Luther King and Obama on your grandmama's wall still ain't gonna save you. Okay. Speaking of listen, look at these brothers over here. Listen, y'all, it's hardcore. It's tough. I know people don't understand it, but it's very tough. I try to explain religion in our community, the things that I deal with daily, even as much as going to acting class and hearing I love my acting coach is incredible, but he would say, when Jesus comes back, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's not real.
It's apropos to Black culture when it comes to, belief. And we definitely, and I feel you, Nikki, because I feel like that's a stomping ground for myself, just really just trying to introduce more critical thinking and also skepticism in the Black community specifically. It is a fight. And I understand that the reason why I understand the reason why it is. And yes, you're totally correct, because our people came from slavery. And I can trace my roots back to slavery through North Carolina and Virginia.
South Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina, Virginia for me, and also going to Tennessee. So yeah, it's a fight. It's a fight. But I wanted to ask the Rich Brits. I'm going to start with Dr. Rich first, and then I wanted Rich G. That's your new rapper name. Richard. Yes.
That's his street name.
Yeah, right. You get street cred now, guy. Even though you have Black Americans specifically starting to divorce themselves from the Christian church.
Oh yes.
Say
that again. Just say it one more time. Black Americans specifically starting to divorce themselves from the Christian church.
Black Americans starting to divorce themselves from the Christian church.
That's better than sex. Oh, that's better than sex.
It's not. But anyway. Anyway, okay. I'm about to bring it back. I'm about to get on the train. But is it still okay? Because this is the part that I struggle with. Is it still okay to trade one unfalsifiable claim for another? And I want Dr. Rich, please chime in, and then Richard.
There's a thorny question. Yes and no. On one hand, if you are taking it is another step in the right direction. It's a move from something that is massively oppressive, that is a huge, powerful system, and to get from under it to something else. It's actually not an uncommon path, as I'm sure anybody who has moved away from their faith, a lot of them do move to this thing. I know people who have stopped being Christian and got into tarot cards and all that kind of stuff, and other sorts of
crystals,
woo and crystals, all that kind of thing. There's a movement.
Yeah.
Deepak
Chopra, it was a journey.
Yeah,
but and I know people. I mean, there's a similar thing in the UK where I know people who've gone into Druidism, which is the most baffling religion to me, because we haven't got a clue what that religion was. They died before anybody wrote it down, but nevertheless, they wear their brown things. They go to Stonehenge and they bong on bowls and go, "Yes, this is Druidism." Like, really? Okay, have fun, go for it. But it's a step in, that direction. I also kind of like that it's sort of a grabbing of an older culture. So we're going to take our culture back. We're going to get out from this system that isn't ours, that was put upon us by others, and we're going to get what is ours, or a version of what is ours, and we're going to reclaim it and go that way. But it is still nonsense. It is still not real. It is still a false belief. So you've still got that. How do you get people to move that step further and go, actually, I'm going to get out
get
of
them to move.
all
I'm
of
going to
this.
move them. I'm
Yeah.
moving them.
Yeah.
I'm moving them because this is the list. We're moving. We are
Yeah.
moving. We're a little behind, but we are getting there. It's happening. Oh yeah.
Which is great, and I think we can't expect it all to happen at once. But I think a change in mindset, if there is a big generational change in mindset that we want out of that and into this thing which is ours rather than that thing which is theirs, that's got to be embraced. That's got to be a positive thing. That's got to be a move in the right direction. So, as I say, yes and no. We've just got to. Well, you guys have got to try and get over that last hurdle and say, by the way,
so
the spirit's not there either. So,
Dr. Rich is of that, yes and no, and did the whole hand thing. So, Rich G, from the streets, what is your take about my question?
Well, I think Richard pretty much read my notes on that. I think for the this isn't a simple hooray. This is a lot more subtle than that. And I think that I think the best part that's come out about this is people reclaiming the culture. That for me is the best part about it. The problem, the difficulty we've got with this, and from a professional academic standpoint, is that the fastest growing religions in the world are in the global religious south, and a large part of this is in Africa.
Yes.
And what's happening with the churches in Africa is that the mixing Christianity with their local traditions.
True.
And that's what's growing this. Now, the fear I've got is that with people re-embracing the culture coming out of Christianity, is that they might take that new form of Christianity and run with that. And that's a fear I've got with this. And I think it's a subtle question that we need more time to explore. I think overall it's good in every case when people come out of Christianity. It's good, and that transition, for the most part, takes part in going through other supernatural beliefs, and that's how most people deconstruct. That is very, very positive. It's a very, very subtle question.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Rich, you have a quick one?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's interesting because one of the reasons, I mean, you'll often hear from Christians that Christianity must be true because it's big and popular. But the reason Christianity is big and popular is because it is so malleable. It can adapt. You can take your thing there and your thing there. I mean, Christmas and Easter are kind of examples of this kind of thing. There's all sorts of saints' days that are taken from the local religions and their local ideas. It itself is an amalgamation of Greek thought and ancient Zoroastrian thought and Hebrew thought, all kind of wedged together and things mixed up. It does this malleability. So, yeah, Richard's right. It has this ability to take on new forms and just take in the local beliefs. And so it could go there. I think in this case, what was in the article is that's not what's happening. But that seems to be what's happening in Africa. So that's another, if you like, front of the war on woo, for lack of a better word.
Agreed.
So, but
yeah,
it's what Christianity does. Christianity eats all the ideas around it, pulls them in, and says they're ours now.
Like a
they
parasite.
always have been too.
Yes.
So,
yeah. And the beauty of this article, just to quickly summarize, is that it says Black Americans. And Africa is such a vast world away from African Americans. And we have kind of this ability to be very close to white Americans. And without being offensive, we do try to emulate a lot of white American culture in order to try to ascend sociological boundaries a little bit quicker. So I am encouraged by seeing Black Americans moving forward. Not quite sure what's going on in Africa. That's some wild shit. I know my mom will send me videos of people coming back from the dead. I'm like, Mama, that's Africa. That ain't the same. So I love the article says Black Americans. Richard, to your point, all of you basically said that differentiation makes a big difference. And I'm just glad you're right. Yeah. Well, we're going to go straight to Deepak Chopra next. We're not going to. We're going to crystals and Deepak and astrology. We're not. We're moving in the right direction. Baby steps.
I was just going to say like that is a very very important demarcation when it comes to African Americans versus like Africans, because African Americans are an amalgamation of our white slave masters and also from ancestors that have come from the western portion of Africa and also Central Africa
and Native Americans as well.
And but not as much as we think it is. As far as like Native Americans.
Let me get my scholarship money, girl. I'm joking.
Okay, we're gonna talk about this on the next one. Okay,
we are. You on that?
but regardless of that, that's mostly what our culture has been made up of, is like what we have absorbed here in the United States. Sure. Africa is very tribal. Versus being here in the United States, we have kind of created African Americans our own culture, and we have created our own culture, especially around Christianity, and that came specifically from how we used to practice Christianity, specifically from slavery. Okay, so we have to keep those things in mind. So like if we're having like people that's like actually like coming out of Christianity and trying to explore more something that seems more organic to them, I'm all for it. I am just of the mind that I get a little cringy, and I feel like I'm part of the rich Brits here when it comes to actually like going towards spiritualism, which I have no fucking idea what that is. And even from a person who was quote unquote kind of spiritual, like I did study to be a minister, all that other great shit. But and even like I kind of like did that whole route with the bells, smells, and crystals and all that shit in yoga. So but coming to this particular moment, it's kind of like I don't know if that, maybe this can be a step in the right direction as far as like maybe like people who happen to start to practice this and see that it ain't really, the woo-woo ain't gonna happen, or the woo ain't gonna get it, then they need to go ahead and let that shit go. And with that being said, join our fans' social media outlets. You can find most of the nonprofits hosts on the Atheist Community of Discord by going to tiny.cc/ACD Discord, and on Facebook at tiny.cc/FBNP. And if you would like to support the show, you can do so by becoming a patron at tiny.cc/PatreonNP. And if you find yourself shopping until February 20th on Amazon, you can also support the Atheist Community of Austin by shopping at smile.amazon.com and selecting the Atheist Community of Austin as the beneficiary. Be sure to use the link to help out the ACA, and we really do appreciate it. And also, folk, we value your feedback. So tell us what you like and what you don't like in the comments below, because you really do, because I read them. And email us, because we will read your email on the show at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. And also visit the Atheist Community of Austin's official website at atheist-community.org on the latest of what's been happening, and feel free to contact the ACA at tv@atheist-community.org. And with that being said, Nikki Beat the Cult, thank you. You had a plethora of things to say, and then some. We weren't ready. So can you please tell the people where you can find you going forward?
You sound like Dan. Dan was like, I can't believe you said all that. No, listen, you guys can find me predominantly on Twitter at Beat the Cult, YouTube. I have a weekly podcast, having a podcast tomorrow with Jenna, Oz, her boyfriend, and Prince Tyler. I will be having Cynthia on the podcast next week. I will be going on Truth Wanted. I'm sorry. Next week, or not Truth Wanted. I'm sorry. Talk Heathen. Help me out. Talk Heathen next month. I'm trying to move at warp speed. And you can also find me on Instagram, and you can find me on Patreon and TikTok as well. It is so great to be here. Thank you so much. This was a dream come true, and I hope to come back again. Thank you.
Yes, well, we would love to have you come back in, and also have the Rich Brits with myself come on as well. I feel like we got like a chocolate, vanilla,
kind of like a double
Like-
stuffed Oreo.
Kind
I'm
of.
still, I'm
Kind
still
of.
hungry from the cake.
If we arranged it right.
I put me over her, move him over to her,
Yeah,
and then the double stuff.
We'll work it out. We'll work it out. Until then, guys, thank you for tuning in to our Runaway Train show of the Nonprofits. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Have you ever wanted to be a host on an ACA show or be the one calling the shots behind the scenes? Are you in Austin, Texas, or at least Austin adjacent? Well, on Saturday, February 25th, make your way down to the Free Thought Library because we'll be holding open auditions for show hosts and orientations for prospective crew members. For those wanting to be hosts, you'll be able to sit in the studio where our shows are broadcast and we'll put you through your paces to see if you can be one of the new personalities of the ACA. For future crew members, you'll get hands-on experience using the equipment used for broadcast and will help us record the host auditions. If you've ever dreamed of being part of the ACA productions, then this is your chance to show us what you've got. This event is free. For more information and registration, visit tiny.cc/ACA auditions.